Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. Yes, this is the Villa Park podcast, not the Up the Villa fan channel, but I've brought in the man himself, Luke Robinson, to help me out with this Aston Villa versus Chelsea preview. Make sure you smash the like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button and help us. We're on the road to 6K, heading for 10K subscribers. So do keep the likes coming in, hit the subscribe button and get your comments in, your thoughts on the game coming up against Chelsea. Another huge game, another game that we have to win to maintain our Champions League challenge, or at least European challenge. So, yes, let's get into it. Luke, thank you for stepping up, mate. Thank you for joining us. You are a friend of the channel. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. I feel a bit like that fight that's happening is it at the weekend. Dubois, full lads are like Dubois pulling a sickie, and I'm the fighter that's stepped in at the last minute, mate.
That's it. Yeah, just before we came on, I was like, this isn't as bad as it sounds, but I basically asked all of the lads on the Villa Park pod if they could make today. None of them said they could, so I came to you, but obviously we got the best option. So yeah, thank you very much, mate. And yeah, obviously you did a bit of a live show on earlier today, i.e. Friday, reacting to the Champions League draw. What are your thoughts on it, Bruges in the last 16?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a team that on paper and in reality you'd think we should get through over two games against them, but the other reality of it is that we've lost to these already this season. So as much as I didn't really want to play Dortmund and have to go away first and, bring maybe a tricky scoreline back, we've been kind of humbled by these before. So I think we've just got to make sure we get it right this time. We do the job, we be professional, and we make it through to the quarterfinals, really.
Exactly. And, everything at the minute is the whole Champions League run's been fantastic, and for us to get into that top 8 and then reach the last 16 is a wonderful achievement. But yeah, you want to kind of grab the opportunity now with both hands. And yes, Bruges are a good side, man. If anyone watched the playoff round, they did really well in their last game, so they're not going to be any pushovers. And yeah, if we can get a good result away from home, then the atmosphere at Villa Park should be special, and you've got to think we can be really confident going into it. And then Paris Saint-Germain or Liverpool in the quarterfinals after Klopp's comments, it'd be good to get him back, get the fireworks. We'll get even more set up at Villa Park for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing about these European games is I feel like you always want to be at home for the second leg, and just don't lose the first leg. As long as it's level going into that game at Villa Park, I'm confident that we can beat anyone that we're coming up against. So those first away legs are very important. But I think PSG is a tricky tie for Liverpool. I think that's. It's not one of them where you go, Liverpool are going to breeze through that, because, you've got sort of like league sort of like implications going on as well. Title race, the cup final in the Carabao as well. And all these things that Liverpool have got going on as well. It just builds up, and pressure and everything builds. So
they've got a very exciting young side as well, haven't they, Paris Saint-Germain? They've maybe tweaked their sort of, Galactico sort of style and strategy, and they've got some wonderful young players and such, that they would, if we were to beat Bruges, they would really be a formidable opponent for us if we were to face them.
Yeah, it's just exciting though that we're even thinking about a quarterfinal in the Champions League. But yeah, it's exciting, but we've got to do our job first, haven't we? We've got to we've got to get through Bruges first. We can't underestimate them whatsoever. So, yeah, but I think we're probably getting towards being a bit of a different team than what was going to rock up there. You know, you've got Asensio, you've got Rashford. Defense is probably going to look a lot more solid with Pau coming back in the next couple of weeks as well. So we hopefully the squad will be at its sort of like peak levels of what we can put out there, really.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's for a few weeks' time. We've got potential sort of Champions League or at least European qualification for next season on the cards at the moment. And, you know, we can't seem to get that momentum going at the minute. You know, obviously defeat against Wolves, disappointing draws against Ipswich and West Ham, and then a spiriting draw against Liverpool, let's say, and a much better performance. But we've really got to back that up with the result on Saturday against Chelsea, haven't we?
Definitely. I don't actually think we've been playing that bad. I think it's just fine margins in football. Like, you know, the keeper's pulling worldies against Ipswich. If we win that, we're looking like in an even better position than what we are. But I think this week's quite important for our season. I think if we can come out of it with a win and a draw against Liverpool and Chelsea, going into a Crystal Palace game, and then you've got FA Cup, you start really building some momentum then. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we've needed. Like consistency of like some results are there, but you know, we don't lose loads of games, but we need that momentum of like some wins now. So I think Chelsea coming to Villa, we'll take the game to them. I think as long as our levels and our energy's there, I think we can rotate the team a little bit as well. But I just think if we take it to them, pose them problems, there's a lot of unrest at Chelsea at the minute. You know, they're not sort of playing that well. Maresca, there's, you know, calls for him to go, and some fans are saying that this could be it for him, really. But so I just think it's about the correct Villa turning up and, you know, no gifts and just scoring an early goal, really, and trying to build on an early goal that could go in. But I think the pleasing signs were against Liverpool that even as that game went on, we were still creating chances. There wasn't really like a sustained period where we were camped in our own half for like 20 minutes. So, you know, if we can create chances against Liverpool at home, then I imagine we should be able to do that against Chelsea.
Yeah. Before we get into kind of the specifics of, you know, players that could be back in for Villa and play and getting maybe a predicted sort of lineup from your idea on that, and then sort of into Chelsea's tactics, I think you make a great point about sort of general with Villa. Is what impressed me was on Wednesday was, like you said, the way that we kind of ended the game, finished the game really strong, and still posed a threat, you know, during that game. And I guess that's what players like Rashford and Asensio do, because they're such high profile players. It means that the opposition can't ever rest, because they'll come up with something in a big moment, or, you know, that kind of thing where maybe we haven't quite had that. And I was also impressed with Morgan Rogers, particularly his game management, in that he wasn't as active in the first sort of 25, 30 minutes. But what he did do, he finished the game really strong. And you could see when Liverpool tired, he was coming through. He was able to just maraud through their defence. Like, I think in some games he's ran out of steam a little bit, whereas this time I think he managed his game much better. So could you see Villa adopting that sort of strategy moving forward against, you know, a team like Chelsea who do pose their own threats?
Yeah, I think our game plan might be a bit different for Chelsea. I think against Liverpool, we probably knew that we had to play on that transition and counter a little bit. But I think against Chelsea, I think we can probably build a little bit more with more possession. I think the way that they play and the way that, you know, their midfield is, I think it should allow us to be able to do that. I think that, you know, they're not as that. The thing is with Liverpool, they press so well, don't they? They're like a pressing machine, whereas Chelsea they're not the same. So I think we will be able to like build with our possession a little bit more. But yeah, I think this game just kind of suits. I think it's coming at the right time for us, really. And like you say, I thought I thought Rodgers was really good, but I think, you know, when you bring it on Marlon, I think, you know, his pace and how direct he is and how quality he is, you know, it's quality coming off the bench. I mean, no offense to Philogene, but when you bring it on Philogene compared to like Danielle Marlon, you know, there's a massive difference there. And we did our preview that's out later on today, and we were sort of saying, I think Ryan was mentioning it, that the subs that are coming on, they didn't have to take sort of like 5 or 10 minutes to get going against Liverpool. It was like they were straight into the game, and it was just seamless, really. And you know, sometimes when subs can like break up your pattern, and that didn't happen really. So I think the fact that our bench is pretty good with attacking quality enables us to keep going really, and try and be as relentless as we can.
Yeah, I thought the subs were really good on Wednesday. They all adapted to the game really well, which was good because, like you say, sometimes they either don't get to the pace of the game, or it's not quite the right sort of substitution, not quite the right flow. But it did seem to work, because I was a little bit worried about Rashford and Asensio starting as opposed to Marlon and Ramsey, in terms of the impact that the two pairs would have, you know, starting and off the bench. But it did work really well. I was very impressed with Daniel Marlon. I thought it's like a pit bull, wasn't he? He was like straight in at everyone, which was great. Moving on to Chelsea, you know, the talk is all about Cole Palmer and how good he is, and you know he maybe hasn't hit the heights of last season. But what have you made of Chelsea so far this season, and how do you think they will approach this game against Villa?
I've been fairly impressed with them, really. I think, you know, looking at where they are on the table, they're probably where they want to be and where they're currently trying to compete with. But there's a lot of like discontent with the way that they're playing, the results. There's off-field problems, there's ownership problems. They're not feeling the manager, and yeah, there's just not a great vibe there. And when they've sort of played Brighton twice, the team that they've nicked literally everybody from, I think they've had the cleaner off them as well.
Yeah,
you know, it's like you've lost to them, and that's probably like the biggest eye-opening thing for a Chelsea fan, that you've took everything from Brighton and you still can't beat them. And you know, they didn't have a shot on target. They're flattered to deceive. They weren't playing well, so I think they come to Villa Park not in a great place. You know, there's confidence probably isn't quite there. I mean, when I've watched them against Brighton, there was one period where I think a pass went to an attacking player and it got cut out, and Palmer had his arms in the air, Enzo had his arms. You know, there was a lot of that, and slow to react, and then they go and concede from that moment. So I don't think they've got that cohesion of what they had when they played us first time round this season, because they absolutely smashed us, and they'd got sort of like Caicedo at right back, Lavia, Enzo was playing really well, and they just look a completely different team to the one that was so fluid early on in the season. So I think we've really got to just be in their faces, get at them, show our quality, and just literally harness everything that we did against Liverpool and take it into this game. Like, it's not as easy as that, but
no, if only it was as easy as that.
I know, but that's what we need to do. Yeah, that's what we got to do.
No, I absolutely get you. You know, it's a wonderful opportunity to really, you know, put a big statement win, or whatever you want to call it, a good big performance against a team like Chelsea that are obviously around us. Now, injuries wise, they've got Nicholas Jackson out injured, Madueke out injured, Lavia injured, Fofana, so Badiashile. So a lot of big injuries at the minute. I've mentioned Cole Palmer, but where else do you think they can hurt us? Is it with the likes of Neto, Sancho, even? You know, they're not really functioning with Nkunku up front, so that's a bit of a tricky balance for them. But I mean, Neto is always a dangerous player to face, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the obvious one's Cole Palmer. You know, you keep him quiet, you keep Chelsea quiet, but I think the biggest player that I think we have to worry about is Cucurella, because the way that he plays, whether he goes into central midfield from left back or whether he goes as a winger and their wide left player then goes more inside, that rotation, I think it was last season that we just struggled so much to deal with sort of their tactical approach, and we just found it really difficult. So I think if we can contain Chelsea in that way, we should keep the likes of Sancho, who's out of form. Neto's not, the Neto of Wolves, is he? He's not that
No,
Neto.
no.
So I think, yeah, they've got, they probably shouldn't have let João Felix go, really, because has been a decent contributor, and they seem to have really weakened their team a little bit with Disasi at the back. They've let him go. Obviously, he can't play in this game, but he's a good defender, and so I think it's more of a system thing that I'm focusing on. I want us to make sure we can get the better of them sort of tactically. And then I think hopefully all the little mini sort of game plans of, someone shutting down Cole Palmer, etc. We hopefully we're able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Now, you talked about there, Disasi not able to play, not eligible to play, and maybe leaves Emery with a little bit of a conundrum at the back. What do you see him doing? Because there's talk of Ezri Konsa coming back. Obviously, Matty Cash came on and did really well. It gives us another option, obviously not a centre-back, but in the defensive area. And then there's one or two other players potentially coming back. Ross Barkley might be able to feature in the squad. So how do you see Villa sort of dealing with the Disasi situation and then lining up for the game?
Yeah, I hope Konsa's fit. I hope he can play. I kind of was happy that he weren't there against Liverpool, because it kind of made me feel like we're just waiting for him to come back against Chelsea. And that's what I'm hoping for and trying to manifest in my mind. But if not, it'd be Bogard, wouldn't it? And
yeah,
I think the thing is with someone like Bogard, I think if he goes into a game knowing what he's got to do, what tactically he's been able to sit down with the analyst people and sort of show him what he's got to do, where he's got to play, who he's up against, where he's got to pass to when he's building up, then I feel like we're completely fine. I think sometimes when some players such as Bogard are coming on in games, it's sometimes a little bit more, when they're coming on and say we've had an injury in the first half and they've got to find their way. I think we're not as good. Whereas
teams can target that, can't they? Because they're thrown in at the deep end, and then they'd straight away go, right, put one on him straight away. And it is hard in those situations because he's just thrown on and said, right, go on, do a job. Whereas, like you say, if you know exactly who you're marking, if you know exactly what your job is, if you know 9 times out of 10 when you receive the ball here, then you need to pass it here or here, then you're much more sort of ready in your mind.
Yeah, so hopefully if it is Bogard, then he can step up and do his job, basically. He's, again, a player that's young, that's getting opportunities at Villa, and he's got to grasp the opportunities. I mentioned earlier about, Philogene. He just didn't take his opportunity. He'd got, the world at his feet, Champions League football, Premier League starts at a club that are trying to aspire to do really well, and he didn't take his chance, and he ended up leaving. So, and on the contrast to that, Garcia's come in and he made his mistake, but he's looked brilliant. So it shows
he's
that
been great.
Take your chance, and then you can build a future at the club, really.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Garcia. He's took to it really well. He's obviously, got the technical ability on the ball. Spanish players renowned for that, and can come in onto his left foot as well and play the ball with his left foot, can take it down the outside. He put some really good balls into the box. And I kind of think he had a bit of an impact on Matty Cash, because when Matty Cash came on, he was starting to overlap and he got to the byline a couple of times and cut the ball back, which was really pleasing to see. So, because I've criticised Cash for kind of getting to that edge of the box and then just cutting back, and it's like, just keep going and you'll win us a corner, or you'll get something. So that's really encouraging. In line with that, where do you see kind of other players featuring? Do you see him going with Garcia over Cash? Do you see him making any changes further forward with regards to Rashford, Asensio, Marlon? You've mentioned. How do you see that playing out?
I've got a funny feeling he brings Cash back. I don't know why. I've just got a funny feeling, and I don't think it would be because of he made that mistake, but
No.
I wouldn't want it to be because of that. But I just feel like Cash might come back in. I'd like to see Asensio on the right and Rodgers off Watkins and Rashford on the left. I think sort of he tweaked the system, didn't he? Whereas it's normally Bailey high and wide on the right, but it was Rashford high and wide on the left, and then so it allows Asensio to sort of come in on that sort of right hand side and play a little bit more in that central zone. And I think across his career, he's been playing on that right hand side. So I think that's something we could see. You know, if he's not going to do that, he might put Marlon out there. I think he deserves to be playing more minutes because he's performing to a high level. But I think apart from that, everything else is picking itself at the minute, isn't it? We're crying out for like Onana to come back or Barkley, just so Tielemans can just have a F5. Do you know what I mean? Just have a bit of a breather. So yeah, it'd be nice to just have those back because I think we got the attack is perfect, isn't it? You know, we've got Ramsey on the bench, Bailey on the bench, Marlon if he's on the bench. So we've got all these, but that midfield area, and it feels like the cavalry's coming back with Pau and Conser as well, and Cash, like you say, is back. So it's just that midfield where we just need some numbers, I think.
Yeah, because you know McGinn's pretty durable, but you can kind of see him when he gets a little bit sort of leggy. It tells because he sets the tone, he sets the pace for Villa, doesn't he? Really, when McGinn's playing well, Villa play well, and then like you say, Tielemans, the amount of ground he covers, and his way of playing in terms of passing quickly, moving the ball quickly. Yeah, if he does drop off that tiny little bit, that's where we can kind of give away the ball and put ourselves into danger. Not through his fault, but just it'd be nice to kind of give him some backup, because Barkley has been key for us at certain times to come on last 15, 20 minutes to kind of give us that control again, hasn't he, in games?
Yeah, he's done really well off the bench, so he's been a miss. And I think Tielemans, he's under the radar with Villa, isn't he?
Brilliant.
We I think football fans, we love luxury, don't we? We love the players that do skill and just drive, but what he does in there, you've got to admire his work rate, his vision, his positioning, his passing ability. He's been fantastic. And if he just pops up with just a couple more goals, that could really start helping us. So hopefully he's in and amongst the goals now. He's had a few sighters at the edge of the box this season, and we just need a couple of them to go in, really.
Yeah, be great. Talking of goals, a man is back in the goals, Ollie Watkins, really nice goal on Wednesday. Obviously scored a nice finish against Ipswich, and we know he's a player who likes to get that momentum going with goals. How do you feel about Watkins at the minute? Are you confident he's back in that kind of rich vein of form?
Yeah, mate, I do not understand the amount of stick he gets. He works so hard, and he's just. I feel like he's so underrated with some Villa fans. It's like unbelievable, really. His goals record, he's edging towards our highest ever Premier League goal scorer. He's always a threat. He works so hard, and that I do believe that there's more to football than just scoring and assisting. Everything else that goes with it.
It's a bit of the stat culture, the FIFA play, the FIFA. I'm sounding like a proper old man here, but like you say, it's what he brings to the team. It's the movement that he brings. It's the if you ask most centre backs in the Premier League who's one of the most difficult centre forwards to face, it'll be Ollie Watkins. He always gives Van Dijk and Konate a tough game every single time he plays against them. And strikers miss chances. In our WhatsApp group, we're always arguing, and I'm always on the kind of Watkins side. I can understand and appreciate the frustration at missing chances, but Haaland has missed, X amount of big chances, like 2 or 3 less than Ollie Watkins, and no one talks about him being a terrible striker and all that kind of stuff. Yes, he obviously gets more chances. Yes, he obviously scores more goals, but that's the life of a striker. If he put every single chance away, he wouldn't be playing for Aston Villa. That's the fact.
No.
So I think he'll be appreciated when he does, whether he hangs up his boots or whether he does move on to a different club, a little bit further on his career. I think he'll then be appreciated. But we can get a little bit spoilt at times.
Yeah, I think I like you say, he does go on runs and scoring runs, and yeah, I just want him to. I just want him to get this Gabby record now because I
Yeah,
think
no.
he's just thoroughly deserving of it. And you know, the amount of games less that he's played, I think it would be really nice for him to do that. But yeah, I think he's great for us, and he's always a threat, and he will have chances, and it's just hope he can put them away really. But he took his goal really well against Ipswich. I mean, that header for against Liverpool was just a joke. You know how he sort
Mm.
of started it and then he followed his run in and he got his, you know, it's a great goal that is. I think his heading ability so like again underrated. You know, the goal he scored last season against Bournemouth and a lot of the headers that he scored, he's really good at heading it in the box. To be fair, so yeah, hopefully he can carry that on. And I think he's pretty decent against Chelsea, isn't he? He scored at Stamford Bridge last season, so. You know, that defense is not the best, is it? So you can stretch that, and hopefully, if he's peeling off players and opening space, and we've got players like Asensio. And to be fair, Justin told me yesterday that Rashford's got a great record against Chelsea. They hate playing against Rashford. So yeah, hopefully Rashford can sort of get his account up and running.
Yeah, exactly, and it's as much about the supporting cast to Watkins as Watkins himself. You know, I'm sure you guys have talked about it on your pod. You know, Tielemans now weighing in with a couple of goals. Barkley, those the main sort of midfield, apart from Rodgers, obviously in terms of 3 goals. But McGinn hasn't scored yet this season. Bailey's only got one. Ramsey's only got one. You know, Rashford, we want him to open up his account. Marlon again was so close to getting the winner against Liverpool. Asensio missed a number of chances against Ipswich. So we've got enough now supporting cast around Watkins to really give him that confidence and give him that support, because you feel like if he knows he's got other players that will chip in with goals, that'll give him take the pressure off him to feel like he has to put every single chance that he gets away.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been saying this for a few weeks, but it feels like we're going to blow someone away at some point.
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
don't know when this is. I mean, maybe hopefully in the FA Cup final or Champions League final or something. But it feels like we've got to do that at some point. And yeah, it's just whether it's Chelsea or whoever's going to be on the end of it, really.
Exactly. Well, mate, it's we've got to the point now. The prediction time. Big game tomorrow night, 5:30 kickoff. I also hope that Villa Park is loud. We usually are for these kind of evening or night games. You know, sometimes the afternoon games the crowd can be a little bit kind of waiting for the players to do something. But I really hope that the crowd are up for this, because they can play a massive part in this game. But what are your thoughts on tomorrow, i.e., Saturday's game against Chelsea?
Yeah, I think we're going to win. I've predicted on our show, so I've got to kind of predict the same
Yeah.
score. Otherwise, there's no consistency there. So I went 3-1, and we all went 3-1. So we all, you know, we don't talk about what we're going to predict, but we literally all went 3-1. So yeah, we can't keep a clean sheet, can we? But
No.
I think we're just gonna have a little bit too much about us, really, in an attacking sense. And I think if we can, you know, no mistakes, like we said earlier, then we should win. What would you go with?
Well, I was literally going to say 3-1, but just
Oh,
to be
mate,
just to
that's
be
4-0
slightly
now.
different, yeah, just to be slightly different, I'm going to say 3-2. I was very close. I said we'd beat Liverpool 3-2, and when Marlon hit that shot, I was thinking my prediction was so close. But yeah, you're right with the clean sheets, and I think we probably do go 3-1 up, but maybe we just make it a little bit difficult for ourselves by conceding one right at the end, and then, you know, being under a bit of pressure. But I am confident in this one. I think I just hope that we have kind of turned that corner a little bit with options in terms of playing options, personnel options, but also in terms of mentality and game management. You know, I think getting into this running now with the season, it is crunch time. But I think the players that we've got now, I think will hopefully, and I'm confident they will, manage these games much better and put us in a much better position to really challenge the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Newcastle, Forest, Chelsea, and finish the season well.
Yeah, I mean, the players that have come to Villa have come because they want to try and achieve things. I think one of them said make history or something. So, now is the time to start delivering, and we've got to build on Liverpool. We didn't win, but it was a good performance and a good result, and we can't just let that mean nothing and just have another whimper, go into Palace. So we've just got to just make sure we're well up for it, really, and just focus on this game that's coming up and just get to them correct levels.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll be there, and I'm sure you'll be there with the fan cams after the game. Hopefully, cheering and celebrating after a victory. Luke, wonderful to have you on, mate. Thank you so much for joining. Everyone knows where you are already, but if you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the Up the Villa fan channel. We'll be back with match reaction with myself and match reaction with the boys, talking tactics, all that usual stuff as well. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Like I said, help us continue on the road to 6K. And get your comments in. Let us know your thoughts on the game. What's your score predictions? Who do you think starts, particularly in those attacking or defensive areas? Like I say, Luke, thank you so much for jumping on, mate. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.